in my teenager years and before, I had very fixed mindset. I was also thinking like, I cannot change. I am the way I am, and that's it.
When life brings you some problems or something, you try to find like solutions. We don't stay at one spot. We try to see all the time like how to make this thing better, how to make our training better. And it hasn't stopped, by the way.
People only do what they understand, and what people understand is very shallow, very surface level, very bad.
If you do something completely different, it's like very difficult can be for your body. If you have come from the background of doing heavy lifting only and just like really rigid stuff, and then like you start to do something more limber animal movements, like, oh man, your body is gonna feel that like crazy. It's unbelievable.
My whole teenager years and childhood, I was just mostly sitting in front of the computer, playing video games very competitively or creating video games. Like that was my passion. But after 17, I dropped everything and I changed everything.
So we have talked about our training history quite a bit because it's a very important subject for you to understand and just get the perspective really on where we come from actually and why we have developed these methods, why did they even were born in the first place. And we have talked, many times about how we were doing a lot of, for example, ego training or, lifting super heavy weights and just focus on skill training and forget all the longevity and everything and how we sort of managed to cause a lot of issues in our bodies, many joints like the, shoulders, elbows, back, hip, everything was just a mess. And how through this experience we started to really upgrade all our training methods, how we went on this huge journey, like how we embarked on the journey to like really develop better training methods and to get us to the point where we are now physically, where we're very capable and where we've been able to fix so many of these problems. But what I think might be even better to give it even more perspective and really show you how much there's this evolution happening and how much evolution can happen within yourself who are listening to this. If we go even a little bit further back and really like try to collect this story from a little bit like even more from the beginning, because I think that there's actually many people who they experience similar things, like they break their bodies, they're doing this type of training, but they never make the change that we did. Like a lot of people go through the same stuff, but what was the special thing or that made us make that big turn, big change in our training? Like where did that actually begin? Maybe that has something to do with like earlier childhood or teenage years, for example. Like what do you think?
Yeah, at least for me personally, everything started like, of course I had like a background before training. I was doing some martial arts like Bujinkan Budo Taijutsu and also learning like, I couldn't do Kung Fu in my town, but I was already learning from like internet and different books, like different Shaolin stuff and all kinds of martial arts. So that was kind of my physical background. But other than that, I was like really bad athlete. Like if there was like a sports team or like what is called the class in school.
Sports class, yeah.
Yeah,
physical
like,
education.
Physical education class. I was the last one or the second last one to be chosen in the team because I just sucked. I didn't have like all these ball games and all these team sports were just very difficult for me. Like now it's easy because I have developed my levels of coordination and movement ability and everything. Like now I can learn anything very fast and play anything very well. But when I was a kid, like I just couldn't play hockey well. I couldn't play football well because everything was a mess. And another thing was that I was also like an obese kid, like my whole life until I was 17. So that also played a major impact in my athletic ability and also how I was pursued by others.
Right. So you were like obese from the very like beginning, I think, like even from a very young child.
No, maybe from 10 years old.
Yeah.
Then I started eating. Like I found that eating is fun and it's good pastime. So I was eating a lot. Yeah. And by the time I was like 17, like I did the Bujinkan Budo Taijutsu here and there, but if people know about like Aikido or Taijutsu, it's not really physical. Like of course it trains a little bit, it burns some calories, but it's not really physical at all. You just learn some techniques and some strategies, but it's not like a wrestling or boxing or even karate where you burn lots of calories. So by the time I was 17, I was very obese and I hadn't done any like actual physical training for years. Instead, I was just playing video games like sometimes 12 hours per day or more.
Yeah, insane.
Like
for that age, like that's like that young, you know, you should be like really like moving outside.
But that's the reality for most people nowadays.
For many people,
yeah, most people nowadays.
Yep.
Or maybe not most, but like a massive portion of like teenagers, they just play video games over and over again, like, and they don't sleep. Like I used to sleep very well, but I would eat and I would play video games, and I was very good at video games as well. Like I was very competitive. I was one of the best players in very many different like online video games, like massive multiplayer online RPGs. Like I was the best in Europe, the best in USA. Like I was very competitive, and at the same time I was also creating video games, like programming them myself. Like I was learning like how to create websites, how to create video games, and I even had like a small game studio.
Yeah.
When I was like 16,
studio.
Yeah, 17. Like it was all online, but I had like 4 guys at the highest, but mostly 2 people in addition to me, and we were just creating video games together. So my whole teenager years and childhood, I was just mostly sitting in front of the computer, playing video games very competitively, or creating video games. Like that was my passion. But after 17, I dropped everything and I changed everything. But that's another story. How about you?
Yeah, right. Because I think for many people, they might think maybe like even when they look at you now or me now that we had like really we were into sports, maybe the whole childhood or something. And in my case, I did do quite a bit of things. Like I did football. I mean, every single person was doing like football in my like the elementary school, because that was the thing. Like everybody's dad was like, "Let's go, you're gonna play football," and then you go play football. But I also tried different things. I tried like track and field. I did swimming. Like I was more physically active, but at the same time, I never really did anything super seriously. And one thing that is interesting, if I now think about, for example, the football playing actually, because I felt like I was doing it, I was playing it regularly, but I wasn't like making any progress. And I was seeing these other guys who would do like swinging the ball, and they were like able to just easily pass me. And during those times, it was like I thought that I can't even get really better. Like for me, it was like, okay, this is my skill level, and I'm not really enjoying this football because I'm not even that good at it. Whereas if I think about now, like I could probably become much better player at anything just because I have the idea of the process and I could put the effort into it. Like if I really wanted to get good at the football, I could just practice myself these things, and I feel like I could get really like much better. But that's kind of a side note. But I'm thinking now, because I was so desperate about football. Sometimes like, well, I'm not good at this at all. But moreover, like I was more of a very artistic kind of a personality. Like I was just drawing a lot. Like I was even like making paintings, and that was something I enjoyed so much because I was able to kind of create things out of my own head. Like I was really able to put my imagination into that. And one of the things that I've never really talked about anywhere is that my favorite toys were Legos, because that was the same thing. That was like same area.
I think that was for the most kids, for me as well.
Oh, really? Like favorite?
Of course, when I was like small, like elementary school or something.
Yeah, because like I had some friends also who really liked them and so on. But there was a lot of, even that time, during time, they started to come to video games and everything, and people started to move away from all these toys, and I was still building Legos till, I don't know what age, maybe around 14 years or something.
Okay, that's
or 30.
Too late. Yeah. I only dropped them like in elementary school.
But I dropped them like at the junior high. But that was the thing, because there was nothing like I could build these Legos for just hours, and then like you maybe played video games. But for me, it was like I was just like diving into I had big boxes that were filled with Legos. I was just diving in there and looking for these pieces that I wanted to put into these things, and creating like these entire worlds, like rivers and villages and castles and nature and towns. And I think that was made also, or it shows like that type of, how do I say, feature or personality in me that was seen in the artistic side, and even in the like building with Legos. That is something that also can be seen. And even the side that I was actually physical kid, in the sense that I really like to run in the forest. I was always climbing in the trees, like whenever, like this is one of my favorite memories from childhood. I went to my grandparents. They had this this tree with, I don't know what's in English. There are this kind of big like brown kind of and they had like spikes, this kind of like a fruit or something like that. But people like fry those sometimes. Yeah, I don't know what they're called, but it was like a big tree with many kind of branches, and from all the different sides it was different to climb into that tree. And I remember I specifically wanted to climb into that tree from every possible side, so I needed to figure out like different ways of climbing into the tree. And same, I remember like when I was doing that, I was doing it so much that I was like, my arms were pumped, and I was not into like any kind of training or something. I was like, wow, like I get strong arms because I was just climbing that tree. And I always just went to proud to my grandma and grandpa during the childhood days, like I'm good at climbing this tree. But I think all of this stuff, the certain playfulness, the artistry, and this creativeness that is, for example, part of building these Legos, and the visualization of creating these worlds is something that it changed form over the years, because at some point I stopped Legos completely, right? I thought this is for the kids, this is not for the adults anymore. So I was like, let's leave this aside.
Yes.
And when I go to study, I'm like feeling, all my time is going into this, writing these papers and essays and everything, and I didn't even want to draw anymore, or even though I was doing that all the time, like, and it was one of my favorite things. And same way, even with the sports, I went to martial arts, but even from then, I started to keep break from that, and I kind of left all of that stuff that was really passionate, or passionately came out of me. I left it aside for quite many years. It was not my main thing, although it could have maybe been. And I had, and then once I got into training, I felt like the training was the platform through which I was actually able to like manifest all of these qualities that I had in an interesting manner. And like even with you actually, like you mentioned, like you were very good at these games and playing them, and I can notice in you like the certain like this the strategic mind and how you're able to organize things. I think is so visible when we're like been doing business together or any kind of projects together. Like you have this ability that was even it was in the childhood, but then you just transformed that into something else, like something very productive or creating other things.
Yeah, it's like my mentality is more like a operator or like a executor. Like I execute things very fast and I make things happen. Whereas Eero is more like a artist. I'm more like an artist and athlete who like explores and has creativity and like this. Whereas I of course have creativity, but it's very different kind of. It's more like from point A to point B, everything is straightforward. Where everything is very like this.
Yeah, very straightforward.
Yeah, and very fast and very like things get things get accomplished very very fast and very well, and we move towards some goal always. Like there's always like something we are working towards. Whereas usually like artists, they just they don't care about the time, they don't care about anything. They just live in their own world and create things, and that's also good. But alone, nothing happens usually.
No.
But you spoke about the mindset, and when I look back in my teenager years and before, I had very fixed mindset. Like I was also thinking like I cannot change. I am the way I am, and that's it. Because my parents, of course, still today have the same mindset, and most people have the same mindset. But my life completely changed when around the age 17, because at age 18 I was going to go to the military, and I knew I was obese, and I knew I was unathletic, and when I went for a run, I couldn't run more than like 1 mile or like 500 meters, and then I was like out of breath, and I felt like I was dying. So I was thinking like, in 1 year when I go to the military, I'm going to get like destroyed, like I'm not going to survive. So it was like the catalyst, and it was like the thing that really changed everything for me, because I realized that I have to get in shape. And so I started doing calisthenics and running many times per week. And I also stopped eating after 6 p.m. So all this exercise, which I never did before, and also a little bit of control over my diet, completely changed my body composition in just 6 months. I lost 20 kilos, which is like 45 pounds in just 6 months. And when I finally got in the military, I was actually, in the beginning, maybe not the best, but over the course of the year, I became really good athlete. Like I got really good scores in the running test, like the not the best, but the second best. And also in the strength tests with pull-ups and push-ups and sit-ups and all these exercises, I also got almost the best scores in everything. So it completely changed my mindset and what I can do, because before I was like, this is the way I am and I'm stuck. But now, after experiencing this massive change from obese person to very skinny person, and from skinny person to one of the most athletic guys in the group. I wasn't the most athletic, but I was one of the top 10%.
Not like a huge transformation.
Yeah, huge. Like in just 1 year, and this completely changed everything, because I was like I can change myself like from 0 to 100 like this, like with almost like with a snap of my fingers. And also it changed also people's perception of me and how people treat me. And I remember seeing like relatives, they didn't even recognize me. They were like, where's Samuli? And they were like, this is my brother? No, this is Samuli. And they were like, whoa. Yeah, like everyone like couldn't recognize me. And the same when I went to drink some alcohol in a bar and party, I saw some old friends from high school, and they were like, what, Samuli? Is this Samuli? They like couldn't believe their eyes. So that completely like transformed everything. And after that experience, I've never been the same. Like I have this very fluid mindset of growth mindset where I can change anything in my life, not just myself, but also my life. I can improve, I can enhance, I can become almost anything at this point, like completely limitless understanding.
Yeah, I think it's even interesting that you even the military even like motivated you, because there was plenty of like obese people there who obviously didn't care at all. They didn't think that they won't survive, but you had like this like your own self-made motivation, like okay, somehow like, because I don't think many people even react to it like that way.
No,
like,
and I actually loved military. For me, it was like it's like the rules and the discipline, like everything was just so simple. Of course, I didn't love the cold nights in the camps during winter. When it's like in Finland, the winters are brutal. Like it's the hardest thing is to survive 1 week during the winter when it's like -40 or -30 Celsius. Like it's crazy. But for me, like military was amazing time in general.
Yeah. The military was also big for me, but it never made like that type of physical change. Actually, I feel like I talk about this time, and I was not really into the arts. I was not into anything like special. Even sports was just kind of here and there. I was doing like calisthenics with my friend a lot, actually, and that did make a significant impact, because we had, for example, gymnastic rings, and I had also set up on our summer cottage. I had also like set up these gymnastic rings, and I had set up like this bar hanging from these cords, because in our summer cottage, like we had the house there, but there was also like a huge farmhouse which used to have like animals down there, and then like all the working equipment was on the up, where you went this kind of like a I don't know what you call this kind of bridge, like an earth bridge and then wooden bridge, and it would go upstairs, and I would make that kind of into this kind of training place. And this inspiration from all of this came, I think, mainly from martial arts. Like this was what I really started to admire at somewhere around my teenage years. And I mentioned like Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee were like huge inspirations. Why? I don't know like why that made the impact, but when I was seeing those bodies, and it actually even still like today, you know, because what I see in the martial artist and Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan was a body that was capable of doing all of this stuff, like super functional bodies, capable of like even fighting, capable of doing different skills. They were flexible, they were agile, like that was like the ideal body. Like it made sense. And I think like many kids, even, you know, they're playing like ninjas on the yard or something, like it just catches you immediately. Like you want to have something from this. And I think that drew me forward a lot in just like keeping myself in shape. And another thing was that I was also like, I just wanted to keep myself prepared. That was often my mindset when it comes to training, because for many people, you know, maybe don't know, but I never planned to become a coach. I never planned this kind of as a profession. I was training, but it was more like I felt that this has value. Like this has to have value, that I'm in shape, because I felt like everything would be better. I would be able to do everything better, and I felt good in my body. And even there's the attention from other people, like, oh, you're in shape, like you get some muscle, like just keep yourself in shape. But this martial arts inspiration was huge, and there was one funny story I wanted to mention when I watched the Bruce Lee's movie when he had the nunchucks. And I was like, I want to have those, but I didn't know any store that would sell them in Finland, at least in the small town where I was living. And I went to the summer cottage, and I had my vision of the nunchucks, and I had my grandpa's, like the equipment through which you could build the nunchucks. The problem was only that the idea in my head about the nunchucks was a little bit wrong. Even though I had seen the movie, I still like didn't understand really what were the measurements of a proper nunchuck. So usually a nunchuck has long like wooden stick, two of those sticks, and then you have a small cord or chain between them. In my mind, it was the opposite. You have like a small stick, like a very short sticks, like just the size of the fists, and a very long cord, like really long cord. Like I don't know how I got that idea, but I managed to like beat myself like all over my body with it, like my back just, and my the triceps. I remember I hit them so hard, and even groin area, you can bet, like every possible area, just like whipping myself with that. And the great thing is that eventually I discovered there was a nearby town which had this steel weapon center where I actually was able to buy real nunchucks, and I really started to like swing around. I bought like 3 of them and these tonfas, and just was so passionate about this martial arts and the body of a martial artist actually during those times. But again, there's a long period from here where it's just, you know, mostly focused on school. I went to university where I met Samuli. This was 2011. And actually, I think that like for Samuli, it was his own experience that made the huge change in a way. For me, it was partially like meeting Samuli that actually made the difference. Because to be honest, like I would not be here during this training if it wasn't for your inspiration to even make something out of it, like make the YouTube channel out of it. Because you said it very correctly, like the artist, or the way I was like an artist, I was a lot in my own head. Like I was able to think in these abstract terms, and I was really into philosophy, and I wanted to always like see beyond things, because I felt like there's the external form, and same like in training. I think that there's the external training that you're doing, but it always comes from somewhere deeper inside that what you're actually doing. And yeah, I was so much into this philosophy stuff and inside my head, and then at some point I realized that this is not getting me anywhere. And then Samuli comes into play. We had been like friends for a long time, but then you said like, hey, like we're training all the time. We're like we're studying training on our free time. We're not really interested in this stuff that we are studying, which was geography actually at the moment. We were studying like geography, which has also not much to do with anything with training. And it just created this spark, like, hey, like maybe I don't believe in myself and what I can do or what is possible with this, but I have a person who clearly thinks that this is possible. Like we can make something really cool if we actually bring our passion to the world. And I think that's kind of pretty much how it started from then onwards. And all this stuff that I've been explaining here, the artistic side, the creativeness, and even the philosophy, like I brought all of that I was able to put into the training. Like I feel like that's really the big process here, like seeing like you can have many gifts, you know, that are given to you, and you don't really know, even not even sure, like how to use them. And for the period of time, like you might even like completely, let's say, abandon them, like I did. I didn't use all them at all. I completely abandoned everything. I just went into my head and was trying to think things very deeply, and just was kind of completely lost there. But then I found the kind of platform and the thing where I was able to like use all of these gifts that were given to me, and then share through that. Like that's
when I first met Eero, in 2011, and many years before that, not before, but many years, and many years after that, like I was very scientific-minded person and very logical and very all about, you know, the mind and rationality. So everything I did was based on, you know, the
practicality also.
The practicality, but especially the body and training. Like I was studying all these different exercise science books and strength training books, and reading the articles, and also learning about the supplements and the different studies in regards to nutrition, and everything happened through the mind. So I was learning some information online or from book, and then applying it to my life. But I didn't really have any body intuition or any actual understanding of the body. But that's why it was very important to meet Eero, because Eero, of course, he had also the logical and rational way of thinking, but he was more in the body. Because I remember the first times, when the first years I knew Eero, he was always talking about like stomach pain and I can't eat that, I can't eat this. It's that's not good for me because I feel bad in my stomach, or I feel bad in my skin, or like this. And I never even understood that in my childhood or teenage years. Like there was no food that was making me feel bad because I was so out of touch of my body. Like seriously, like there was no food or anything that was making me feel bad because I didn't have any body intuition or body intelligence or anything. Like I was completely out of touch with my body, and that's why I was so bad at coordination and all this stuff when I was a child. But through working with Eero and being friends with Eero and training with Eero, I personally started to develop this body intelligence and body understanding. Like I started to feel like, when I eat this, I don't feel so good, and when I eat this, my skin doesn't look so good. So I started to get this like understanding of myself through being in presence of Eero and like seeing how he reacts to different things. And like that's one of the main things like we preach nowadays, is like the body intelligence and the body intuition, because it's hundreds times more accurate than anything you can read online or in a book or in a scientific study. Because the studies, like we have talked about this before, that it may or may not be accurate, and it may or may not apply to you in this exact day, exact moment, and exact age and exact everything. Like it's very hard to, you know, apply outside external standards to individuality, because it almost never works. But if you learn to like understand yourself, understand your body, read your emotions and feelings and body in terms of how it reacts to different things, then it becomes almost 100% accurate. Like that's the highest, like the level is that like you have so much understanding of yourself that everything you eat and everything you do is like 100% applicable for you. Like it's like created for you. It's like the perfect thing for you. It's like the perfect thing you can do and the perfect thing you can eat when you have this body intelligence and intuition.
Yeah, and it's so tempting, like when people are on the internet, you see nowadays there's so many gurus, right? And they're like, meat is the only answer, like carnivore. And then they're super good at presenting like this is the thing, like, and they have all the evidence, all the scientific data. And then you have another person who's like, no, veganism, like you have to be vegan, and then you listen to that, and it's very tempting because they give you the answer. You don't give yourself the answer. The other person gives you all the answer, and he's all the authority over yourself. And it would be like so nice to just get the easy answer like that way and just follow that way of eating and then get all the results. And for sure, some people, if you try, this or that like extreme diet, you may get benefits, and that might be even better what you're doing now. But at the same time, it may not work optimally at all for you. You just like listening to a person to whom it worked, right? And these people, because it worked for them maybe or something else, they are really like convinced about it, and they're explaining about like it's the universally best solution. But like you said, it can't be like denied that we have universal features, but we're also individuals. And listening to our own bodies is actually the only way to really tap into that. Like you can try, like I see some of these people and it's like, it's all fine, but like these people who like measure everything and try to biohack everything like to the smallest detail. And I can see like that can also bring you a lot of knowledge and information about yourself, but I still don't think that even that will give you properly the really accurate assessment, because the body is so complex sometimes. But what is interesting here is that why did I like talking about the nutrition is a subject of its own. Like we do talk tons of it, because this also started from me at teenage years. Like you mentioned, I was like, why did I? Because I saw like started to see this skin problems, a lot of skin issues, and I was like, why did I make that like, let's say, revelation that this has something to do with my food, for example? Why did I make that choice? I don't understand. Why did I even realize already like before my teen or during?
Yeah, and that's interesting because I also had bad acne.
Yeah,
like very bad acne, and I didn't think about nutrition at all. Right. Instead, I went to this medicine and pills and these creams and stuff like this, and they didn't help at all. So that's very interesting, because
it is, and same way, like even like I started to doubt shoes, and I don't remember where this came from. I really don't, honestly, if I think about it. But I had knee pain as a kid, and at some point I realized this is my shoes and my running style. Like I started to. I was like the crazy person at one point. I remember I was walking our dogs. I was walking on asphalt, and there were like two kids, like small girls, who were just watching me, like because I was walking on barefoot on the asphalt. No one did that, and it was like a really hot summer day also.
Yeah, but now it's common.
now it's common. But during that time, if I knew like I could get barefoot shoes from somewhere, I would have gotten them. And as soon as I realized I can't buy the shoes, I actually got the shoes. But like to make those decisions, I think the principle there is that with you as well, you did it in different areas, but we both break through the establishment, because it was like you should use normal shoes. That's what everyone does. Do that. Eat like they recommend at the school. Like you have the nutrition pyramid, and eat like that. Eat tons of grains and all this stuff. Do that. Like this is all given to us. Or like in your case, your body is what it's supposed to be. Like, or it is what it is. Like you said, your parents also believe there's no change. You cannot change the establishment. And I think in our case, it was like breaking free from that. It's like breaking past certain limitations. And even with training, we did the same thing. Like we break through the establishment in the training world.
Yes, because in the early 20s, we used to train like how everyone is training, even today. Like we used to do all this, like even because there's many levels of, like there's the casuals, and then there are like the serious guys, and then there are very smart guys. Like we used to train like the smart guy. In the beginning, we used to train like the mainstream, like just do whatever. But then we used to train like the smart guys. Like we used to mix powerlifting with gymnastics, and we used to do all these Nordic girls.
Yeah, and some like basic rotator cuff.
Yeah, rotator cuff, like training external rotation and stuff like this. But even that we surpassed like completely, and we have continued to surpass it. Like we don't care about whatever. Like we don't really, like people sometimes ask us like, do you know this channel? Do you know this guy? Like I don't even know. Like I don't even know what anyone else is doing. Only if they really push it to our face. Yeah. Like the really big guys, like people comment all the time, like how about this guy? How about this guy? Then I know. But other than that, like I don't care about, because I used to follow everyone, but now there's very small selection of people I actually follow and actually learn from. And because most people, even the who are very famous mainstream, they just, it's still in the limited mindset, in the limited, like the mainstream understanding that didn't get me or Eero where we wanted to go.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even for me, I don't feel the urge to really watch, what other people are doing. Of course, I follow many people on Instagram or, not really YouTube, to be honest, but like there isn't that much to learn. Even when we went to learn like the actual Kung Fu and Qigong, like from Jyrkinen, like that's one of the few things where we realized that we could learn something that was completely different. Because for most of these people who are doing training now in their channels, they have a lot of training we did like almost 10 years ago. Like there's nothing.
Yeah, what is now but like the mainstream, like the highest level of knowledge people think. We did it 10 years ago and we gave all that up. Like we stopped doing it. Like I see lots of these guys, like even famous like athletes and these guys like doing the one arm chin up stuff and Nordic girls and stuff. Like we did it 10 years ago and we gave that up because it was not the best, even close.
Yeah, that's so funny that you say that. I didn't actually even think that stuff, which I get it, like it's okay, like train the stuff, but it was still thing that we did at some point and we really like went forward from there. I mean, that was like people still think that that's the best thing to do and that's what you should be following.
And we went light years ahead of that, like years ago, and we still are going.
Yep. And this whole journey has been about that. It has been like, how do I say? Because this whole thing, what we're like trying to bring out here is that we respond to different things. Like when life brings you some problems or something, you try to find like solutions. We don't stay at one spot. We try to see all the time like how to make this thing better, how to make our training better. And it hasn't stopped, by the way. Like I think I'll be like learning new things till I'm gone from here. Like I don't think we'll ever stop like the learning new stuff and developing our methods further. Like that's how I feel about it, and it's even impossible to stop because how can you stop learning? It's so deep. Like people don't even see really how much there is to learn about training. Like that's the thing. That's why it's so important to stay open and always like see like in what kind of establishment are you right now? Like what are you like being able to question your actions, being able to question the things that other people are telling you to do. Like that's how I see that we have gotten much further. And even like the building the Legos, right? Like I had a vision, I want to build this world, but when I actually start to build it with the pieces that I have, it might change. Like the thing might change. My vision, I might notice, these pieces fit better together here. Maybe I don't have all the pieces that I need. Maybe I want to put something different. Like the same way when I visualize training or I visualize my body, I noticed when I actually start to train, it's completely different. Like your vision of what it should be should change during the process. Now this is what I think what many people are not doing. They're not taking the real wisdom from the process and applying that into their bodies. Like you're not really, and the problem for that is partially that you're just not being in tune with yourself. Like you explained, like you start to learn the intuition. I started to get more like, okay, let's actually get forward in this life. To you also, like, like I would just be probably like, going nowhere. But in my head, I'm like, oh, these amazing things. I have these great thoughts about everything, but I would never put them out anywhere because
not applying it.
Not applying. Yeah. And another thing, of course, that comes to this evolution that we have been talking about here in personal development, it's like even bringing ourselves into the world. Because another thing, people probably don't expect that, or they expect that I was maybe sporty as a kid, but what you don't expect is that I was also like very introverted person and shy person. And even Samuli was like more towards that side, I think, than, for example, what we are now. Like I never wanted to be in the videos, or I didn't want to take photos. I think it's just like weird to be in photos. Like why would you like be in photos? I don't understand the thing. And we came into the game when Instagram and all this stuff was still starting also, so it was not that even common. But nowadays, like, everyone is on the videos and photos mostly, but
yeah, but more about the body intuition is that's why it's very important to learn from Eero, because in many ways Eero is like a natural in this. Like even in his teenager years, he's like through listening to his body, he was able to understand that these shoes are not good for me, and this nutrition is not good for my skin. But most people don't have this understanding, and I didn't have it either. But through training with Eero, you can also get the same, like through going through the same training and just being in the presence of Eero, you will absorb the same understanding to yourself, like automatically. It's just, little by little, because it's like a different frequency of, of reality almost. So when you learn from like someone who's natural, you also get the same ability in over time. And that's why, like, if you do like animal movements, if you do like the athletic training that we do, and if you do any of the training that we do, it's the training that Eero does. And because of that, you will also develop the body intuition, the understanding of yourself that most people don't naturally have and never had. But through this process of training yourself, your mind changes and your body changes, and you become more in tune with nature, more in tune with body, and you become just like a better, like less autistic, like a less stuck in your mind person who actually lives in the actual reality.
Yeah, I think some people say that you can only learn from the teacher or what the teacher has in some ways. It's not all like accurate, like there you have very great coaches, for example in boxing or something. They may not be the best boxers, but it's the mentality, like you said. It's not the actual ability. It's not like
you don't get like the exact strength and the exact body the muscle fiber type and the exact everything, but you get the understanding and the frequency.
You get the sort of philosophy behind it, like the mindset. And but this is even purposefully what we're trying to do. And it's impossible not to try to convey it, because if I'm teaching and whatever exercise I'm teaching, I have to bring it there, because I don't want to, like, what else? I believe in this stuff that we are doing actually, and I believe in the mindset and the philosophy that we are teaching and the methodology and the principles. Like that is what I feel, we have to bring, and that's why we always offer a little bit deeper insight in the training, because I feel like it's important. Like you need to actually do it. Otherwise, because the results are the external results, as I mentioned, even actually earlier here, that the external results are a manifestation of your, in a way, your spirit and your mindset and what you put into your training. Like the results that you can get in your movement ability and whatever, limberness, mobility, flexibility, it's just a manifestation of actually your mindset into the training. Like I often say, the way you think about training is the way you train, and then the results come from that. So if you change, like if you get a little bit of that freedom and same mindset that we have into the training and in your body and your mind, it changes, it totally transforms your training. And this is what we have seen from many people. Like if people who do our Athlete 2Next, for instance, they're genuinely surprised. They're like, what is this training? Like how did it, like why do I feel this muscle so well? And because they never felt that, they never had, no one ever told them this stuff to do training like this way. And I feel like that's the combination from both of us. There's the intuition, but there's also the structure. Like because for me it works. I don't need a workout program. When I go to the gym, I just go there. I don't need any sets. I don't need reps. I go there. I train. I get results. But there's tons of people who they can't even go to the gym if they don't have a paper with exercises and everything's laid out, right?
Yes.
And for me, it was like the combination of the structure of certain clear goal, like giving people a platform and even the website and everything.
And the process.
Yeah, and the process exactly like you had like very clear transformation
from
process.
Month to month and week to week.
Precisely, and then adding that intuitive, free and creative mindset into the play as well. I think that's what has created something very unique in our kind of co-work or cooperation.
Yes, I have said before that people only do what they understand, and what people understand is very shallow, very surface level, very bad. And people usually avoid what they don't understand because it's uncomfortable. But that's why people should actually try, like if you actually want to learn something, you should learn from people who you don't understand, who don't make sense to you. Because they actually have something that you don't yet have. But instead people always do what is in their understanding. And in the beginning when people start training, beginners and everyone just understand everything at such a low level. Like they only understand heavy weights and just do like whatever movement like this.
Yeah.
Like there's no sophistication, there's no actual methodology, there's nothing. It's just, and as a result the body gets destroyed, the results are subpar at best and like this. But for us, the truth for many years since we started has been the highest virtue. Like we are always trying to improve and go towards the truth. Like we just try to make everything as good as possible. Like we are not biased towards anything. Like we are ready to drop anything if we have to. But right now, because we have been on this journey so long, we know this is good and very important. This is good and very important, and this is good and very important. But other than that, like it's the truth is the highest virtue.
Yeah, and I think what shows that greatly is that if you look at our oldest articles and videos, the things we recommend are different. Like if you go past 7 years or so, or maybe even 8 years, or maybe just 7. Like if you really watch what we were recommending or talking about the most, it's very different from what we talk about now. And it's not that was like all bad stuff, but we made a change, and it's no like this is about admitting, that this is not the best way to go, what we did in the, for example, past. And it's always like going forward in that sense. Like you shouldn't be afraid to see that maybe you could do things better, even if you had continued for years doing something in a bad way. The change is always difficult because, as I think maybe you mentioned, that is if you do something completely different, it's like very difficult can be for your body. Like if you have come from the background of doing heavy lifting only and just like really rigid stuff, and then like you start to do something more limber animal movements, like, oh man, your body is gonna feel that like crazy. It's unbelievable. And because the thing is like I mentioned here, your body conforms to whatever you're thinking, and your thinking changes the training oftentimes, and your body will adjust itself, and it will always want to do more the training that you're doing. Like if you have been just lifting heavy weights, your body will conform to that specific thing. Like, and this actually, you get into this very tight like box and road where this is where you're heading, just in this one direction. And you become better at that. You will become like stiffer, because stiffer joints help you to lift, for example, more often weight. They help you to support maximal amounts of weight, right? That will happen. But then if you want to make the change, you will need to tear your body a little bit open from that onwards.
And it will be painful.
Yes, it can be painful, but in that sense also like bringing out the process, bringing out the good best methods, bringing out immediately, like, because we made the change and we didn't have any knowledge about anything. We needed to find out everything from a scratch, like through endless nights of just like research and trying and testing and a lot of mistakes. But what we can bring with our methods and programs is that we can put like all the steps already there, like all this stuff, and it would make it so much easier. Like if I knew everything, I would have made a huge change within 1 year. And I made a huge change within 1 year, but nothing compared to what I could do with the knowledge that I have now. And that's the thing, like we like the process is difficult, and you're gonna have some pains during it if you make that big change, but it can be much less painful if you avoid all these years of like just trial and error, which most people won't even do. I know that most people won't do the search that we even did. Like that, I think that's what I've been saying about here, is that I don't know why I was, made the things, why I had the intuition, why I did all this stuff, but all this, I suppose the whole life has led to this point where we were given this possibility to even embark on this journey to find out this stuff.
Yeah, and that's why I think what we do is a very big contribution to the fitness landscape and martial arts as well, because through our research and our experience, you can really skip the line of 10 years. Like you can skip 5 years of mistakes or 10 years of mistakes, because actually more, because some people, they repeat the mistakes for 20 years.
Yeah.
But you can easily like cut the learning curve like a lot, and you can immediately start doing what is actually the good for you, what is actually producing the best results in terms of athleticism and performance and longevity and sustainable training and everything. Like you can immediately start to get the correct results without the horrible mistakes which we experienced with the mainstream methods in the beginning.
And like we often talk about the heavyweights or something like this, but it's not just about that. Even back,
actually,
you can be just completely sedentary, like a person, like you were. Maybe you sit 10 hours per day playing video games and 8 hours in the school or whatever, 12 hours in your work. Like you can be just heading in the very bad direction because of that, of your physicality, and the change will be all the same painful. Like
yes, and actually it's not even about the heavy weight, it's the methodology and the way you use it. Like the weight doesn't exist.
Yes, so that's a very good point that Samuli just showed there in the end. The weights or whatever skills, it's not, like I've already been saying, it is not the external stuff. It all comes from the intention that you put into your training. It's all the stuff that you can't see. Like I can't see your intention. I can't see what you're thinking. I can't see what's really in your body, what's in your soul or something like that. But that is something that you need to also change on that deeper level. And after that, it doesn't matter what tools you use, what kind of weights you use, or whatever. All that matters. But what matters the most is how you apply everything, and that's the methodology of the training, and that's what we also are focusing on. Not just the actual technique and the exercises, but everything that's behind that as well.